Hi, this is Kasian, and it's time for our weekly conference call at VectorspaceAI. We'll start with what's happening around the world. The WHO, or the World Health Organization, has designated a variant of concern, a new virus variant named Omicron, which is the fifth major variant to be discovered. The WHO is also encouraging organizations to enhance their ability to sequence new variants. This has impacted assets around the world, including crypto, stocks, and oil, as they've dropped on this new variant concern. BTC is trading at 54.5, ETH is at 4,100, and the Dow is negative 903 at 34,900. This is the biggest drop since October 2020 for the Dow. On the industry side, VentureBeat is reporting data platform Big Eye released Deltas, a new feature that enables data teams to automatically compare and validate datasets. Deltas replaces SQL queries, manual spreadsheet matching, and one-off Python scripts with automated comparisons and instant validation. Informatica expands cloud marketplace to let business users share AI datasets. The marketplace is part of the vendor's Intelligent Data Management Cloud, or IDMC, platform and allows enterprise users to share datasets, analytics, and AI models. And ChannelAsia.tech is reporting that. Cointelegraph is reporting that Cointelegraph and Longevity Science Foundation announced a new partnership. UC San Diego is reporting research related to our cells. We might not know half of what's in our cells, new AI technique reveals. And this is reported from physics.org, quoting, most human diseases can be traced to malfunctioning parts of the cell. A tumor is able to grow because of a gene that wasn't accurately translated into a particular protein, or a metabolic disease arises because mitochondria aren't firing properly. But to understand what parts of a cell can go wrong in a disease, scientists first need to have a complete list of the parts. By combining microscopy, biochemistry techniques, and artificial intelligence, researchers at the University of California, San Diego School of Medicine and collaborators have taken what they think may turn out to be a significant leap forward in the understanding of human cells. The team trained the MUSIC, M-U-S-I-C, artificial intelligence platform to look at all the data and construct a model of the cell. In other news, artificial intelligence successfully predicts protein interactions, could lead to wealth of new drug targets, and SciTech Delhi is reporting this. Our next headline, a drug intended to treat Alzheimer's may hold promise for glioblastoma. Verasityesports demonstrated poor results in Alzheimer's trials, but helped suppress tumors in preclinical glioblastoma models. That's brain cancer. Something of interest to us as we focus on the brain extracellular matrix in the context of space biosciences. Vice is reporting that NASA plans to put a nuclear reactor on the moon within a decade. Quoting, the agency put out a request for proposals for a lunar nuclear power plant that can power surface exploration. Next, we have themes and events. And the drug intended to treat Alzheimer's that may hold promise for glioblastoma, that drug, verasityesports, may be in the pharmaceutical pipelines of other pharmaceutical companies. And it's important to find out what companies those are, or to establish a relationship network between companies that are associated to this potential new drug repurposing for glioblastoma or brain cancer. The coronavirus basket. This is a basket we produced January 2020. This is January 21st, 2020. And the basket did quite well over the course of a year. Invax was in there, Novavax, and a handful of others that we're now familiar with, pharmaceutical companies we're now familiar with. From time to time, these baskets become relevant again, And based on this new strain, we're going to be analyzing the results from the coronavirus basket that we initially produced, and we'll be producing an updated coronavirus or COVID-19 basket or Omicron basket. For more information, you can visit the Thematic Baskets channel, where we talk about generating thematic baskets of stocks and cryptos related to global events. On the corp side, we've got HR, facilities, and legal, and everything is moving right along with each. We're continuing to hire. We're continuing to resolve a headquarters here in the San Francisco Bay Area. And on the legal side, everything is in process. On the engineering, product, QA, and ops side, actually back to the legal, we do have legal reviews happening with agreements that are coming from scientific collaborators. Right now in our queue would be the agreement from University College London. Next, under engineering, product, QA, and ops, under our category of space biosciences, we have data pipelines that are being built. These data pipelines are designed to ingest documents, scientific literature, peer-reviewed published papers, data sets, in fact, from the National Library of Medicine, or PubMed, in real time. We're going to be ingesting these into Azure as we create data sets that will be used to store at Azure Space/SpaceX. We're now using Azure Synapse, and this is to query data files directly. And these are, I'm reading updates directly from engineering here. So some of these updates are going to be technical. I'll skip over a few of them. We are also creating PDF extraction scripts, and these are required for a variety of reasons. One being a current customer we have, and the main reason being that a lot of FDA clinical trial data is in PDF format. And there are a lot of papers out there that are only available in PDF format, and converting scientific papers to a machine-readable format is a big part of our process. And the final note for engineering, from engineering, credit goes out to everyone in the engineering team for a very productive sprint. Next, we've got the financial markets, and we will be producing data sets for Morningstar and S&P. These are in the queue. As we mentioned in our last call, we are delaying our talks with Morningstar and S&P, or any revenue sharing dataset distribution partner, until we secure our scientific collaborations, which we have. So now is the time for us to begin building the data sets that will be showcased for Morningstar and S&P. In that, we are also building crypto baskets, thematic baskets for crypto. We have a test interface that we are currently testing internally. We'll be releasing that test interface to the Thematic Baskets channel for further testing, QA and validation, and curation. And we intend to have the API integration available this weekend. That means the API will be up, available to be integrated by any exchange. We will be letting the public know, the general public know, this week. And that will also connect to retail offerings for crypto baskets. The ability to generate thematic baskets of crypto and thematic baskets of traditional stocks or equities related to a global event also buys you the ability to create a data set that enables you to correlate traditional US public companies to cryptocurrency companies. You would have, for the rows, US public companies, traditional companies, and for the columns you would have cryptos. And you'd be able to see that every time perhaps a traditional stock might go up, you might have a basket of cryptos that have hidden relationships to that traditional stock that might also go up. Or every time a particular crypto goes up, you might see a basket of US public companies, traditional stocks that go up, and you might want to position in those. You might want to filter those in a particular way that gives you a particular kind of edge. Those are the kinds of things that we'll be offering retail and institutional. So anything that we offer retail is obviously automatically available to institutional. Next, we've got customers, partners, and collaborators. And we'll start with University College of London. We are waiting on the final agreement from them. We anticipate signing that final agreement not this week, but the next. On the Imperial College of London side, we have signed the agreement. We have a fully executed agreement, and this is the first of two agreements related to our datasets, correlation matrix datasets, which will be used by the Imperial College of London, in particular the Roos Lab, and perhaps a few other labs internally, where our correlation matrix datasets will be used to speed the process of hypothesis generation, speed up the process of novel discovery. That is our goal. With scientific data engineering pipelines, correlation matrix datasets, and resulting graph networks and relationship networks that enable a scientist to compare two proteins, maybe one they've seen before and one they haven't, so that they can make that leap in researching a particular protein or network of proteins that might be something where they'd be able to make a discovery, fertile ground for a discovery, or a new hypothesis. So we're going to be, in particular, I'll take some language from the agreement. It says the Department of Life Sciences, the Roos Lab at the Department of Life Sciences in Imperial, wishes to access and use the data or correlation matrix datasets for the purpose of investigating molecular pathways in aging and spaceflight, as specified in the collaboration proposal, which is attached to this agreement as Exhibit A, and incorporated by reference herein. The supplier has agreed to supply data or correlation matrix datasets to Imperial College of London under the terms of this agreement. Continuing, there are two streams of research that could benefit from the partnership with Vector Space Biosciences. Number one, drug discovery. Novel drug targets in the mitophagy pathways. The canonical mitophagy pathway, pink Parkin, is well known due to links within Parkinson's disease. The pathway they study is independent. The pathway we study, it says, is independent of Parkin and therefore represents a new direction for therapeutic strategies. The first two proteins being studied experimentally in the lab are NME4 of the NDPK family, that's nucleoside diphosphate kinase family, and OPA1. OPA1 plays a crucial role in mitochondrial membrane fission and fusion. Expression levels of OPA1 have shown to be significantly altered during spaceflight. NME4 is a multifunctional protein with links to inflammation, mitophagy, energy production. A key focus of the research is understanding the role of cardiolipin, CL, which mediates interaction of these two proteins. Our goal is to find other hidden connections in this pathway, with the longer-term goal of mapping out as much as possible of the mitochondrial interactome to find new therapeutic strategies in longevity research, and with the extension to space biosciences research. We are working with collaborators to build a molecular level 3D model of mitochondrion. And the second research vein, stream of research, is materials engineering. And quoting, we have some materials projects in development where we use cryo-EM and machine learning methods to analyze lipid nanoparticles and viral vaccine particles and their protective effects on DNA stability. This could be of interest going forwards. So the materials part, we will be focusing on a latter phase. The drug discovery part is what we'll be initially focusing on. And that would be developing correlation matrices that correlate proteins in the context of longevity, or in the context of cardiolipin, or in the context of the mitophagy pathway. Correlating those proteins to drug compounds that could be potentially repurposed or repositioned for therapies. And of course, new drug targets. Mining for new drug targets based on relationship networks and graph networks and knowledge graphs that are generated from our correlation matrix datasets. You can take a correlation matrix dataset and view it as a vector space. You can view a vector space as a graph network. You can view a graph network as a correlation matrix data set. And that is what enables us to generate the final relationship networks, where new hypotheses and new discoveries can be made. Next, we'll move on to the financial markets. We are still under customers, partners, and collaborators. And it's important to remember that we take an interdisciplinary approach. That means that everything that we learn in space biosciences, we apply to other industries, such as the financial markets. How we optimize data sets for space biosciences, we make notes of. We can take those optimizations and apply those to other industries. And that would be our interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary approach in what we do between academia and industry. So under the Morningstar side, under Morningstar and S&P Global, as mentioned, we are building dataset descriptions, and we are also including the use case. So the Imperial College of London, for example, is working on a use case. This would involve datasets of ours that are used to generate a potential discovery or new hypothesis, to map relationships that can be then experimentally validated. The Roos Lab is going to go through an entire process here that would include a complete write-up on how our data sets are used to accelerate discovery, specifically in collaboration with the Roos Lab and in the context of space biosciences. That case study is going to be used as a way to illustrate the application of our data sets to our financial markets customers, to asset managers and hedge funds and other institutions. This is something that has been requested by Morningstar and S&P Global. Would be a real world use case. And the strongest use case we can possibly have would be in the basic research within space biosciences and showcasing the ability to speed up the generation of hypotheses or novel discoveries. So that's what we're looking forward to doing, is including the use case, but that does not mean that we will begin engaging with the showcasing of our data sets with both groups, Morningstar and S&P. This also includes an update from LCX. This is an exchange that we've been talking with for a while. They are now ready to integrate our APIs for cryptos, thematic baskets for crypto. This would include an initial simple integration of a REST API on their side, talking to us, sending us a global event that their users, their traders might be interested in, and us returning a thematic basket of crypto, sometimes based on a context and sometimes based on filters they might select. In any case, they are to pass the VXV utility token address, and that's going to mean doubling their wallet address as the API key, which then enables access to that tier. And of course, that will be available to all exchanges. Moving on to the corporate development, business development, sales and marketing side, we are continuing to view Morningstar and S&P Global as our revenue distribution partners, as they've agreed to be viewed that way. We do not want to roll out to their customers without having that real-world case study description, which we are putting together now. We'll have a short description and we'll have a long description based on the entire case study. But the short description, the very short case study we're going to use would be what we're doing now with our scientific collaborators, and showing the application, including that in a description, and including that description or attaching that description to a data set. That data set being pharmaceutical companies by pharmaceutical companies, and pharmaceutical companies by drug compounds in the context of a particular disease like Alzheimer's. And of course, those data sets will be placed in the Morningstar S&P notebook offering. So we'll be talking with them likely next week about this, now that we've got ICL, Imperial College of London, all signed off. And by that time, we'll probably have UCL, University College of London, signed off. And that goes for S&P Global as well. The same description is going to be given to them related to the data sets and the case studies. And that's how we're leading with the science. On the exchanges side, everything's in process. We're continuing to talk to 2 exchanges. We'll cast a wider net shortly. Under IR, PR, and Marcom, we intend to communicate to the public this week about 3 new Scientific Advisory Board members and the Imperial College of London scientific collaboration in human longevity and space biosciences, in addition to an upcoming case study. We are also intending to talk to the public about the release of the thematic baskets for cryptos API, available to exchanges, using the wallet-enabled API key requiring VXV. So look for 2 communications to the public. We're going to go ahead and push those out, and then we'll be communicating more about our scientific collaborators in the coming weeks. Next, we have questions from the trader base. Question 1. Does VectorspaceAI plan to implement data produced from IoT devices? Yes, we do. As soon as we and many others can figure out how to reduce the noise ratio, we have been working with PLC ladder logic controllers for quite some time. These are controllers that are put on pharmaceutical manufacturing pipelines, and they control the opening and closing of valves, temperatures, and all kinds of flow control related to processing pharmaceuticals. And that kind of data we are very familiar with taking and archiving and engaging in pattern matching. Question 2, in regards to Microsoft and leasing them out your own open source dataset, is there any concern of Microsoft basically stealing the information for those datasets if they are open source? And are there any protections in place to make sure that wouldn't happen? Also, what makes VectorspaceAI's datasets more superior than current ones that are out there? And Planter's datasets. Well, the most important thing to understand is the difference between data and datasets. Data is unstructured. A dataset is structured. We consider a dataset one with rows and columns. That is the format that most machine learning and AI operations rely on. When you look at a static dataset, when you publish anything that's static on the net digitally, that's it. It's out there. It's gone. The proprietary aspect of what we offer would be the updating of the datasets. A dataset is no good if it's out of date. So the updating of datasets at 99 cents per update per minute, that is our sweet spot. That's how we protect against the proprietary nature of what we offer. And of course, at any time, customers can have private clouds on-premise, meaning that the creation of their datasets is proprietary to them, and the outside world would only be able to view a hash of that dataset. Question 3, since you have full regulation within the United States, is there a possibility we will see a Coinbase listing in the near future? That question was already answered, and the answer is yes, that's inevitable. Question 4, during your fireside chat with CoinMetro, you went into an in-depth comment on the wallet API feature. I understand that the address of the wallet is the API key that enables access to datasets. However, I'm a little confused where the size of the wallet comes into play. In your example, you used a wallet that had 100K VXV in it. Obviously, at today's prices, that's quite a large amount of tokens. If someone, for example, were to only have 5,000 VXV, how would you affect that size of the datasets? That they were able to access. Also, I was under the impression that we had to spend VXV to update the rows and the columns. You mentioned that you facilitate customers with fiat currency via Stripe. Is there any advantage to spending the tokens as opposed to cash? And last part of my question, if I create a data set attached to my wallet that is no longer valuable, am I able to delete that data set and create a new one without selling any tokens on the open market? So first off, size does not affect the customized options in your data set in terms of the amount of VXV fluctuating. If the size fluctuates, if the size of your data set fluctuates, there is no connection to the size or the amount of VXV that you have in your wallet. However, if you'd like a particular customized data set that's available on a particular tiered service level, there is a particular amount of VXV needed to access that particular tiered service level, or that customized tiered service level. So each customized data set will require a different amount of VXV. And it's not required to spend VXV. You just have to hold it in a wallet. And the other part of this question, you mentioned that you facilitate customers with fiat currency via Stripe. Is there any advantage to spending the tokens as opposed to cash? Well, typically you want to spend cash ahead of tokens every time because the tokens are simply more valuable. And the last part of that question, if I create a data set attached to my wallet that is no longer available, am I able to delete that data set and create a new one without selling my tokens on the open market? We can make that a possibility. That can be an option. We don't have the system designed like that today, but if we do get enough feature requests related to that option, we'll implement it. Question 5, is Efficient Frontier already market making for VXV? No, Efficient Frontier is not market making for VXV, not officially, not formally. They might be on the side. We have not engaged with any market makers. One of the reasons for that is we understand that the most advantageous thing we can do is engage with a handful of market makers, not just one or two. We were required by the US SEC to hold 5 market makers for our stock, US publicly traded stock. There's an advantage in having multiple market makers. So we are interviewing a list of 5 market makers right now. We've chosen a short list of 10, and we're going down the list, and we are determining which market makers will be best pooled to serve as assistants on the book. Question 6. The Vectorspace webpage update could have a real-time aggregator of information, including information about linked repurchases in the blockchain and transactions. Wouldn't that generate more interest for the token? The interest for the token is generated by consequential revenue. Interest is also generated based on the usefulness of the product and whether or not people are recommending it to their friends. That's the hallmark of a great product. Whether or not it solves a problem that you have yourself, perhaps as a data engineer, and whether or not that product instills enough confidence for it to be recommended to friends. Interest in the data set equals interest in the token. Question 7. You mentioned in the last conference call that raising capital before Christmas would be considered by some quite a feat. Why is that so? The answer is simple. It's just harder to close due to holiday schedules and fiscal year-end obligations for startups and VC firms and investment bankers. Next, we'll move to the strategy side and a bit more on marketing. We've had a few marketing questions. We understand, as mentioned, that marketing is the result of building a great product, making sure your product gets recommended by friends. Your product or service needs to instill the kind of confidence that drives a user to recommend that product or service as a way to build social capital for some. Starting with tastemakers can boost the adoption process, just as tastemakers can do this in the music industry. There are tastemakers for every industry, and we do target those tastemakers. We target early adopters, we target evangelizers of our product to help us cross that chasm. That's the kind of marketing that you want. A product should market itself. And addiction, a product being addictive, that's gotten a bad rap based on a lot of social media companies we know about today. However, with the right kind of addictiveness, a product will achieve that hockey stick-like growth without that addictiveness being toxic. There might be a fun factor involved, a gaming-like factor. We know with consumer and retail apps, you have to make it fun. And a well-developed user interface or user experience and user interaction model designed to minimize cognitive load and the number of steps it takes to accomplish a task. In other words, simplicity, so refreshing that the end user is driven to recommend it to their friends. So those are hallmarks of great products, including the fact that it should be solving a problem of your own, in your own industry, based on your own knowledge domain expertise. And speaking of knowledge domain expertise, that's a good segue into the Imperial College of London case study. We will be engaging in interdisciplinary research. This means that the relationship networks, graph networks, visualizations, the clusters, the thematic baskets of stocks and cryptos, what we learn and how we optimize in that industry, we will take and optimize in the space biosciences industry and vice versa. All of this results in new revenue streams from biotech and pharmaceutical companies. We do intend to target the biosciences or life sciences industry. This is where we started, and we know how to target that industry. So that's what we will begin doing, but we will not do it before the case study with Imperial College of London. The case study itself will give us, in addition to new revenue streams, government contracts in space biosciences. So case studies with, or even writing papers with our scientific collaborators is going to be key for us in terms of unlocking new revenue streams and quickest path to revenue. We don't just choose a single quick path to revenue. We have multiple paths that we've chosen, multiple quick paths to revenue. Knowing that applications, products, and services that are built in space biosciences result in applications, products, and services for all humankind. This concludes our call for this week. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to join us online.